Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Final Score. Today, we're going to be talking all about the New York Knicks. Jason and Jaden will be very glad to hear that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. They're now one game over 500, currently sitting at fourth in the Eastern Conference. So we'll recap last night's loss, look ahead at what we think the Knicks can and cannot do in the playoffs, and even talk about whether or not they should be making a trade. So why don't we just get into it? All right, so Jaden and Jason, why don't you guys start with a recap of last night's win?
Jaden, you want to start us off?
Yeah, so the Knicks, baby, 18-17 for the first time in 8 years. 4 seed, currently in the East. Best team in the league.
Interesting take.
Last night was a huge game because it's been 8 years since we were that 2 seed with the Melo team. It's been a really rough ride since then. You know, bringing in this year, we got Leon Rose, we got Tom Thibodeau, Worldwide West, an entire new look. RJ coming in second year, Obi, 8th pick overall. So to come out here and finally get that one game above 500, it's a huge milestone. You know, some people make fun of it and say, relax, your game above 500, but it's a huge milestone for the Knicks.
We're better than Celtics, right?
I think so.
Yeah, we're better than most teams right now.
Yeah, so this is the Eastern Conference standing currently. You have the Nets and the Sixers up at the top. Sixers are up by a half a game. And you got the Bucks. They're a game back. The Knicks are in the 4 seed. They're 4.5 games back. Then 5, 6, and 7 is all half a game behind the Knicks. That's the Heat, Celtics, and Raptors. And then one game behind them, so a game and a half behind the Knicks, you got the Bulls and the Pacers. And the Hornets are only a game behind the Knicks, too. So you have
the Hornets
everybody between – yeah.
Yeah, Hornets are the 8 right now.
Everybody between the Hornets – or everyone from 4 to 10 is only separated by a game and a half. So the Knicks are sitting at the 4 seed right now. In 2 games, they could be down at the 8.
Well, let's just say this. Dylan and Anthony, at the beginning of this year, they made the claim that we would not be better than Pacers. Dylan said best case scenario 9 and 10. And I think Anthony said same thing, right? Best case scenario 9 and 10.
Yeah, 9 or 10 seed.
So now we're halfway through the season, pretty much, about to be the All-Star break. We got an All-Star, always in the dunk contest, and we're the 4 seed.
I don't know if I'd measure the dunk contest as a measure of.
I'm just saying we're getting New York out there, getting the Knicks out there.
Yeah, no, there's no denying that the Knicks have been incredibly impressive. I was wrong about Thibodeau. I thought he was the wrong hire, but I mean, clearly he's been great for them. As far as that playoff picture in the East, though, I mean, the Knicks are the 4 seed right now, sure, and they're better than the Pacers right now, but who would have predicted that the Pacers would have traded Victor Oladipo for Karis LeVert, and then Karis LeVert would be out because, he...
Yeah, but even when they did have Victor Oladipo and everybody, they were still we were still like half a game back.
Yeah.
And we also...
There is a lot of teams. I think the argument you can make is the Knicks clearly exceeded expectations, and they look good. Like, I don't mean exceeding expectations in a negative way, but there is still another half of the season to be played. And generally, we see things shake out in a more normal manner. Like, there's been the first half of the seasons, like the Jazz aren't the 1 seed in the West. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like first half of the same reason in football, it's like the Steelers were 8-0 halfway through the season.
I just feel like that's what just happens, especially when it comes to the Knicks. Like, people just say, like, we'll talk at the halfway mark, and then we reach the half of the season almost as the 4 seed, and then there's still something to be proven because other stuff happened. There's always something to be discredited from the Knicks. Like,
agreed.
Well, in defense, the Knicks have not been a remotely decent franchise for how long is that? 8 years. So
when we do something good, why is it?
There's gonna be.
So then, why is it discredited when we do something good?
Well, I think there's going to be skeptics.
It's not. Yeah, it's not discredited, but there has to be. I mean,
every single thing took away because of trades or whatever.
What?
What'd you say?
I said when you're discrediting it, like when we talk about the Pacers, you said like who could have predicted the trade and stuff. But that's just discredit. Like we're better than the Pacers right now.
And you have to think right now, this pair the Knicks are on, we're without Mitchell Robinson and Taj Gibson. And I know you say Taj, but that just leaves us with Nerlens and Obi. Obi's playing backup center for us right now.
Okay, I was
He's
like,
like,
I don't know if Taj is really the.
Okay, listen. The Knicks. I'm not even talking about how the Knicks are playing because the Knicks have been very good, but I'm talking about how the rest of the league almost is playing. Like you're telling me that you expect Miami and the Celtics, who are both in the conference finals last year, to finish the season at 500.
I don't
Raptors to finish.
Look, I hate the Celtics
Raptors,
right now. I hate the Celtics right now. I don't know what's wrong with them, and I'm sick of them.
I just want to say though,
I can see Celtics having a similar second half of the year like they did, finishing just a game or two above 500.
We're halfway through the year, so I don't know why you keep like we were talking about this before. What's guaranteed to change after half the year gone by? What's
generally
to say that
things settle out? I don't know why, but for whatever reason, things just tend to settle out the second half.
Yeah, but the Heat have won 6 in a row, and they're still 500.
That's because
what's different about the Knicks, if I may, what's different about the Knicks right now is Thibodeau. Thibodeau is a coach who doesn't give his players a rest. And I don't even just like mean that figuratively. Like literally, we were blowing out the Pistons last night. And whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, Julius Randle and RJ Barrett were in the game with like 2 minutes left. Thibodeau will not rest until he gets what he wants. And I think that's what's different about this Knicks team.
That's why the Knicks are going to I'm not saying the Knicks are going to have a drop off. I think that the Knicks will probably look like this for the rest of the season. I mean, their schedule is very difficult in the second half, so that could hurt them, especially with a late West Coast trip in the last week of the season. But what I am talking about is Jaden and I were talking about this before. Is typically in the end, things are going to adjust, and the best teams are gonna start to win more games. The standings are gonna even out.
But this is a weird
right year. Now. It is a weird year, yeah, and that's why the standings are the way they are right now.
The Jazz are the 1 seed, but I also don't think, like Dylan said, they're not the 1 seed in the East. That might not be the best team, but I think that they're probably going to finish the year as the 1 seed. I don't think things are going to fizzle out and they're just going to start playing like crap.
Well, the Jazz have just been incredible, but
why is it going to change randomly?
I don't think it will, but I'm talking more about teams that aren't playing up to themselves right now. Talent tends to win out in the end. And if you compare the Knicks to
the Heat were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. They were nowhere near the most talented team in the East.
Who?
No, but they had elite talent on that team.
I think Miami was one of the most talented teams in the East. They were like top 4 all year last season.
But I mean, if we're going to be talking talents out, there's always gritty teams who can get down in there and play and work their way up.
Do you really think you're the Jimmy Butler Heat?
Anthony, earlier we were talking. You mentioned the Raptors. So you think that the Raptors are a very talented team?
Hang on. Right now we're talking about Miami. We're gonna kind of cover the Knicks versus
Miami's better than it. I know this isn't even the conversation. Miami's better than Toronto, like by far.
Yeah. So that's a good sign. Let's take the Knicks against each one of these teams. I mean, no one's comparing.
Okay.
No one's going to say anything about the Knicks against the Nets, Sixers, or Bucks. Like that's clear. But let's talk really Miami, Toronto, and the Celtics because those are the teams that they're going to be right around. So to start with Miami
and Charlotte.
Miami. Charlotte. Oh, Charlotte's been. Did you say PJ Washington dropped 42 points last night?
Yeah, that was crazy. No one's talking about it. They're just talking about LaMelo putting up that crazy shot that he missed.
Yeah.
We should also talk about the Pacers because they're another team that's a team.
We will. So, but let's start with Miami because to me, Miami's the best out of all those teams. Okay. Miami's won 6 games in a row. They started off really slow. Jimmy Butler got off to a cold start. He was in and out of the lineup with injury. But now Miami's starting to look like themselves again. And they're 500 right now. There's no way to me they don't finish the season above 500.
Yeah, no. I think Miami will finish probably around the 4. I think they'll finish above the Knicks, to be honest.
Okay. So then here's the next question. If, let's say, somehow it was a 5-4 or something like that, do the Knicks stand a chance against Miami in the playoffs?
Yes.
No.
Do we stand a chance? Yes.
No.
Do we say?
We
I
do.
think we chance.
What
I
do
think
you
another
define
team.
as standing a
And-
chance? Will it
Yeah.
be a series? Maybe it could be a 6-game series. Will they win? Absolutely not.
Knicks
Yeah.
have the statistically best defense in the NBA. You're telling me no matter they don't stand a chance against Miami
I'm
Heat?
taking
They
Jimmy
don't.
With an
Butler
all-star
in the
Julius
playoffs.
Randle?
I'm sorry, I'm
Here's-
taking Jimmy
here's why-
Butler in the playoffs.
Yeah, this is why the Knicks don't stand a chance against Miami.
No,
Is-
they
You got to remember, Thibodeau used to coach Jimmy Butler, guys. That
And
also helps for a game plan. If we have the best defense in the NBA and then a player that he used to coach on the opposing team, I mean, there's going to be good game plans.
who on the Knicks roster is going to take Jimmy Butler out of the game or neutralize him in the biggest moments?
Also, if it's
The
not
Knicks
Jimmy
don't have
Butler,
one
nobody.
lockdown
They
defender.
have-
They're just
they
a
have
great defense.
Dragic, they have Hero, they have a lot
I'll-
of guys who can
I'll
get hot.
live with Goran Dragic taking a game-winning shot. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I think Goran Dragic has been one of the most underrated guards in the league for the past 4 years. Honestly.
He is. Yeah, Goran Dragic.
So-
is-
The Knicks
So one
aren't a
thing-
team with Kawhi Leonard on defense. We don't have one singular lockdown defender.
Right.
We, as a team, play great scheme defense. So
And
I
how
don't
is-
think the question is who's going to lock down Jimmy Butler. We're just going to harass him as a team.
Here's the problem, though. Playoff basketball.
And you forgot about Bam Adebayo.
Yeah. So
Mitchell
Break
Robinson.
it on shot.
here's the thing about the Knicks. Here's the thing
he
about
was
the Knicks.
doing ISOs last season in the
All right, hold on. Let me
playoffs.
hear Anthony here.
The thing about the Knicks, specifically with the Heat, the reason they can't match up. Jaden and I got into an argument about this before we even started. Is nobody on the Knicks can go toe for toe, shot for shot with Jimmy Butler down the stretch, or even Tyler Hero. You don't want. You don't. You listen. You don't want Julius Randle taking your most important shots against
Yes,
Jimmy
you
Butler.
do.
No, you
Yes,
don't,
yes, you do.
guys.
When
Guys,
he's having an insane statistical year. He's having a better points per
Yes.
game than
You know
Anthony
who was
Davis.
having an
Better
insane
rebound.
statistical year at this point, like last year, in the year before? Pascal Siakam.
Please.
Hang on. We'll get into the
He
Raptors.
also
We're still talking the
he
Heat right now.
Second best player on the finals team, Dylan.
Yeah,
We're
so
still talking
that's
about
a
the
pretty
Heat.
poor
We're still
argument.
talking about the Heat. You're telling me that you are comfortable with Julius Randle in a playoff series as your
Very-
number one shot creator and scorer. That is the
People-
most absurd thing I've ever heard in
Yes.
my life.
How are you really going to sit here honestly and say that Julius Randle cannot create his own shot when he has done it?
I'm not saying he can't create his own shot, but look at playoffs. Look at any playoff team that has made a deep run. They've had a player that you can get buckets down the stretch.
But
Julius Randle's a good scorer.
Around here, we're not
Playoff-
talking deep run.
Playoff
Also,
basketball.
the Heat are one of the best playoff basketball teams consistently.
Yes, playoff basketball primes on isolation, especially in the key moments. You're telling me you want Julius Randle going against Bam Adebayo
Okay.
one-on-one
Okay.
for the game?
I don't think you guys realize how absurd of a season he's having. Listen to these stats. He's averaging more points per game than AD, more rebounds than Joel Embiid and Bam Adebayo, and
I'm talking
more
about
assists than
buckets.
Drew Holiday, Donovan Mitchell, and better three-point percentage than Dame.
I'm talking
So
specifically.
yes, I want that guy taking the shot.
No, you really don't. Not if you're smart. Julius Randle can't create his own shot in the last bucket of a playoff game. He can. Okay, he can. But I don't know. You need elite scorers to thrive in the playoffs, and you need guys that can hit big time shot after big time shot. I'm not talking about can he go and get one bucket in the clutch. Sure, yeah, anybody can. And Julius Randle's been a great scorer, but to be the number one scorer in the playoffs on a team is a different level of scoring. Domantas Sabonis averages 20-plus points a game. You're telling me you want Domantas Sabonis creating the points for it? No.
No, but
Like,
if
more
we're
than
talking
points
about
per
the
game.
Knicks as a whole, we're talking about the Knicks as a whole versus Miami Heat. And if
You
Randle's
just
not
changed
taking
the
the last shot,
argument. You did just change the argument. You said I'm content with Randle.
We're talking about
and then
the
now you're
Knicks
saying,
versus
but
the
the
Heat.
Knicks team. And then I'm taking the
yeah,
Heat.
we are. We're talking about Knicks versus Heat. I'm saying I would take Julius Randle, but if you're not going to take Julius Randle, Derrick Rose has hit so many clutch shots in his career.
I
I'll
would
give him
rather
the
have
ball.
Goran Dragic and Tyler Hero.
Then
Yeah.
Derek, you'd rather have
And
Goran
Duncan.
Dragic than Derrick
Don't
Rose.
forget about Duncan Robinson.
Wait a
Yeah,
minute.
Duncan
Anthony.
Robinson
Damn.
too is
Okay,
elite.
so you're telling me you'd rather
Best
have Derrick
2K
Rose.
player of all time.
Wait,
Don't
Okay, you're-
talk to me about Duncan Robinson over Julius or Derrick Rose. I don't want to hear that.
are you
I
serious?
compare him to
He's a
Julius.
complimentary player. That's the difference.
Dylan said he's Wait, hold up. Dylan said he'd rather have Dragic than Derrick Rose in a big shot. You're really gonna stick with that?
Yes.
It's close. They're right at the same level of player.
Yeah, I'm saying for the one shot though, I'd rather have Derrick Rose.
Dragic has made him before in the past too. I really like Dragic. Dragic has been basically an all-star for the last 5 years.
But Julius Randle, I don't know why you think he can't create his own shot when it matters. In the fourth quarter, when we're losing, Julius Randle scores almost every single time 10 straight points on step back threes and fadeaway mid ranges.
Guys,
that are unguarded.
Okay, look at this. Look at Philly. What's been Philly's downfall every single year?
That they have inability creating their shot. I'd rather have Julius Randle than Ben Simmons. He can't shoot to save his life.
You'd rather have Julius Randle than Ben Simmons?
He's saying to take the last shot.
Last shot? Absolutely.
Joel Embiid, though, like Tobias Harris, these guys, they have guys that are good scorers, really good scorers.
Tobias Harris.
In the playoffs, it's completely different. Even Giannis. Look at Giannis Antetokounmpo.
He can't shoot either. You're naming people that cannot shoot a free throw.
Also, I think something that's a testament to Miami, and this isn't the Miami Heat podcast, but their defense is unreal. I mean, we're still talking about Iguodala and Butler.
We're also the number one defense in the NBA.
Okay, but I'm telling you, playoff time is a completely different game. Last season, the Heat were still the 4 seed, and the Bucks are almost always the best seed in the East. So if we're going by that, okay, fine.
The Knicks haven't been to the playoffs.
Are one of the best playoff teams. Period.
But the Knicks haven't been to the playoffs in a while, so we can't really. I'm talking about right now. The Knicks are the best defensive team in the NBA. So why? So
yes, but in the playoffs,
yes, it will change. But you think they're going to go from the first best defense to the worst best or the worst in the?
I didn't say that. I said they're going to lose to the Heat.
But you said that. But you're talking about how the defense won't be as good because it's playoffs.
No, I said the Heat's defense is that good.
Miami have two of the best. If you're ranking top 10 defenders in the NBA, Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler are both on that list. Nobody from the Knicks even sniffs the top 10. So both of those guys would be miles better.
We are a good team.
And you don't need to have a lockdown defender to have a great defense. Schemes can harass people. That's why people will get lost in schemes like the 2-3 zone or a full court press. It's because it attacks people and they don't know how to react.
You have like 5 options any given night that can blow up.
We spend quite a lot of time here on the Heat. We might have to try to wrap it up and agree to disagree and move on to the Celtics.
So one last point I want to make to your point about scheme defense. In the most critical possessions of playoff games, what ends up happening? One-on-ones, right? You're not running a zone. It's not often that you're going to get to run a zone defense in, the last most critical possessions of a playoff game. These guys are creating and taking one-on-one looks. And so in those moments, you want the guys who can create their own one-on-one shot and get the best look, which more often than not is a jump shot. And you also want the guy who can defend the one-on-one look the best.
Yeah, and I'll take Julius Randle shooting it. He's shot amazing this year
against Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I'll take him shooting it.
Okay. All right, we're gonna have to move on here and ignore this ridiculousness. Let's move on to Toronto. And if you think that they can beat the Raptors, that must mean you think they can beat, or the Heat. You must think they can beat the Raptors.
I actually think they have a way.
I'm just saying, like,
I could see the Knicks beating the Raptors. I'll say that.
We can definitely beat the Raptors and spicy Heat.
I don't like you were talking about before. Obviously, Fred VanVleet's good. I'd definitely rather have Fred Van. He was talking about how it's close between Fred VanVleet and Julius Randle.
Oh,
come on
now.
I do really.
It's not.
I'm talking.
I love Fred VanVleet. It's not close.
I'm talking about shot making ability. Fred VanVleet is.
But Anthony,
right
Fred
there,
VanVleet's not even the second best player on the team, or maybe he is over Spicy Pete.
He is the second best player on the team.
Right, but he's still not the best shot creator. He's a good shot creator, but I'd rather have a Julius Randle who's an all-star.
But who would you rather have on your team? Okay, yeah, you could pick Julius Randle, but you're telling me that after 30 games of seeing Julius Randle play really well, you'd rather have Julius Randle taking shots than Fred VanVleet, who was hitting big shot after big shot after big shot in the finals for the Raptors?
I think that one's closer than it is Jimmy Butler.
It is, yeah, but I still would take. I don't know.
I would take almost a 50-50 Knicks Raptors playoff series. I think it could go either way.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably take the Knicks winning, but
I think the Raptors.
I would take the Knicks.
Depth would win out, and their shot making ability would win out over the Knicks. But the Knicks could make it a series, and they'd have a much better shot than they would against Miami. To me, it's like Miami's not even a chance. The Raptors is like I still would pick the Raptors, but the Knicks would have a better shot.
So you're saying not even like there's almost no chance that the Knicks win against the Heat, like realistically.
I don't see it.
Realistically, no.
Okay,
that's ridiculous.
I was just checking in to see how delusional you guys were.
Man. Okay,
so is there anything more to be said about the Raptors? Because it seems like we got a pretty good consensus here.
Nobody cares about them.
Now let's talk about
hang on. I think that, their depth, too, really helps because, they have guys up and down that lineup that consistently – not consistently right now, but have in the past consistently produced. They're a very well-coached team. And I think that they're, again, I would put them in as a more or less a lock to finish above the Knicks regular season.
I'm extremely low on the Raptors. Like, even if we weren't talking about them versus the Knicks, like, I'm very, very low on the Raptors.
All right.
Okay, so let's move on to Boston. Dylan,
the Celtics.
Just as a Celtics
man,
fan, tell us really quick what it's like after being a defensive. Bam Adebayo makes one of the best defensive playoff plays in history, and that was all you were away from the NBA Finals. And now the Celtics just look like the dumpster.
I could go on for a while about it, but the simple fact of the matter is Danny Ainge needs to trade pretty much everybody but Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and I probably wouldn't trade Robert Williams or Grant Williams just because I don't think they give that much value, and I like both of them a lot. Like, Robert Williams is really improving this year. Our team is a mess.
You wouldn't trade Robert Williams for a superstar?
Well, that's different. I'm just saying I prefer to keep him. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah, I get that.
I think I don't know if the locker room has, but I'm certain Boston has lost trust in Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens should have gotten us to the finals, and he's not coaching us well at all this year. And they're not a mess, but the only reason they're not a mess is because Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum are that good.
Yeah,
that's true.
They're not a mess, but it is very worrisome, and we're very under expectations.
So let's talk about them versus the Knicks regular season before we get into playoffs. I definitely think the Knicks can beat them. I'm not saying they will finish ahead of them, but I can see the Celtics finishing at 500, finishing a game below or a game above because they look so bad.
I could see it too.
I agree,
However, playoffs, I'd like to think Tatum and Brown would probably beat the Knicks.
You would like to think it, but Stevens has made such terrible calls that lose games. Like playing Daniel Tice at the 5 against Bam Adebayo.
We often get out of
You'd also like to think that the Celtics not figure it out. He's not dumb enough to let the trade deadline buyout market go by without acquiring somebody. I think it's pretty likely that the Celtics do something, and you hope they can add a move. Maybe they bring in a Blake Griffin, or maybe they bring in.
I'd like John Collins,
Kevin Love.
I'd like John
Collins would be really nice. Yeah. But for Boston, things look pretty bad. It's just really tough to separate.
I will say this about Boston: if we make a right trade, get a right buyout, I do believe Boston is a team that can get hot quick.
Yes,
because we still have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, who are two of the best young stars in the league.
That has the locker room lost confidence is what
I think there is an issue with Brad Stevens. I think that is what a lot of it comes down to.
I agree.
Once again, the issue, and this isn't the Celtics podcast, but I don't know if you can get anybody at the moment better than Brad Stevens.
You're not going to be able to.
No, but it almost comes to a
season that's better.
I don't think you can get rid of Brad Stevens and would we get any better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a tough debate.
What's also worth noting with these teams like the Celtics, the Heat, teams that made deep postseason runs last year, even Denver hasn't looked as good early in the season. They haven't looked as bad as the Celtics have at times, and the Heat did early on this season. But those teams played late into, what was it, June? When did the finals happen?
Might have been like August,
I think.
So they had a much shorter off season and then had to quick turn right back around and start with the season. Like LeBron was complaining about it early in the season, and the Lakers stayed afloat because LeBron's a tank. But you can't discount the type of toll that took on these teams.
It is true, but I do think there's
deeper issues there.
Yeah, I think there's more to it than that.
No, I'm not.
So let's take a look at.
That's a contributing factor.
Why don't we take a look at them versus the Knicks in a playoff series? What do you guys think the outcome would be?
I'll still take the Celtics because I do believe that there's a good chance. Okay, if we're going as stands, it's close. If we're going of what I think will happen, I really do think Ainge will shake things up. We'll get something. It'll start piecing together, and I think we would get out of the first round and beat the Knicks.
For me, if you asked me today, if the playoffs started today, I would probably take the Knicks because the Knicks are playing better. But if you ask me who I think at the end of the season, I'm still going to take Boston.
I mean, I think I'll probably take Boston, but I do think that there's an argument to be made that the Knicks can definitely put up a series, if not win it against the Celtics.
I know regular season.
Yeah.
Regular season only says so much, but I believe when the Knicks played the Celtics, they held them to a ridiculous low total of around 70 points.
Yeah, I think it was like 70, 76 or something like that. And then
because the Celtics have been horrible.
So, yeah.
Exactly. So I don't see drastic turnaround for them.
Right.
I think there's a good chance. I think there's a decent chance.
I definitely think that they're going to get better, but I don't think they're going to be going from horrible to all of a sudden they're one of the best teams in the NBA again.
But they don't need to be one of the best teams in the NBA to beat the Knicks. That's like the Knicks. Keep in mind, the comparison we're using is the Knicks. We're not comparing them against the Lakers or the Nets or the Sixers. Like, as good as the Knicks have been, like let's not put them up there with some of the elite. Like the Celtics, when they're playing at their best,
Celtics, honestly, according to most odds, were probably like the sixth most likely team to win it because you have the Lakers, Nets, Clippers, Bucks, maybe.
But let's be honest, just like you guys think me, Jaden, have a bias with Knicks, which we obviously do as Knicks fans. There is so much negative connotation just with the word Knicks. Like when you guys talk about the Knicks, you already have a negative mindset going into it just because of how bad we've been the past 8 years. So I think we need to look at more how they are now as opposed to how they've been, because I think that still kind of lingers with people talking about the Knicks.
Yeah. To an extent, I definitely agree because the Knicks have been the laughing stock of the league for so long. But now, I mean, it's a completely different culture. And, Thibodeau has that team playing a completely different brand of basketball. That being said, put it this way. The Knicks are playing about as well, if not better than anybody could have possibly expected them. And the Celtics are playing worse than anyone could have possibly expected them and have the same record, pretty much. So you'd have to think that over the second half of the season, it's going to correct more. And that's why I would still lean with the better team, in my opinion.
I think Boston, the only way the Knicks would win is and there is a possibility of this. Boston goes from a bit of a mess to an absolute dumpster fire. That's how the Knicks win. Because you got to remember, and I know I'm being a bit biased here, but Boston is still should be one of the top teams.
Yeah.
And so most likely
would have had to completely fall apart.
Most likely the Celtics will win, but I definitely think the Knicks are just that type of team who pretty much the entire season, except maybe 1 or 2 games, have taken every team to the final minute.
No, yeah, that's the type of team they are. That's definitely.
Yeah, we're not saying these series
playoffs too.
Blowouts.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying I think it'll be a good series if they play the Celtics, even if they get a lot better.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure they can make it a good series against anybody, really. I mean, maybe not the Nets or the Sixers, but I think they could make a good series out of almost any matchup. But what this team reminds me of is more like a team like the Nets were 2 years ago. A young, scrappy team that was really well coached, had, a bunch of guys that contributed, led by their all-star, who was D'Angelo Russell. And they were a team that was never an easy win. And, they played hard, they played together, and they made it to the playoffs as, I think, a 6 seed. And they won a game against Philly, and they were almost had another win. But ultimately, teams like that, their ceiling is capped. And that's what I think is the situation for the Knicks. The Knicks, as great as they've been, to me, their ceiling is capped.
I don't know.
So does that bring?
Oh, go ahead.
No, because I was just going to transition into something else. So go ahead.
I don't think that's necessarily true, because I do think that, obviously with Mitchell Robinson back, obviously we can have players like RJ playing more consistent, Julius Randle, even if he just keeps what he's doing. I don't think our ceiling is necessarily capped.
So what is the ceiling in your opinion? 1 playoff win, 2 playoff win?
A series?
Winning a series.
Yeah. And then
it can definitely happen with how well this team is playing without Mitchell Robinson.
NBA Finals.
Yeah.
I mean, we have Emmanuel Quickly, who's a Rookie of the Year candidate, Julius Randle, who's an All-Star, Mitchell Robinson, when he comes back fully healthy, great defensive player, and Thibodeau coaching this team to be the best defense in the league. That's what we're looking at. And RJ Barrett, who is a great player. They
don't have, in my opinion, what limits their upside is the lack of offensive firepower, really. And that's the primary thing, is they lack a go-to. You say it's Julius Randle. I don't believe
he is our go-to guy.
He is. No,
and it's been working.
It's been working to the tune of being 1 game over 500, not to the tune of winning a playoff series. Those are 2 completely different conversations.
But
you guys are acting like 4, 5, and 6 seeds haven't won a playoff series.
And that 1 game over 500 is better than the teams we've been talking about. It's better than the Heat. It's better than the Raptors.
But those teams have proven stars who have won multiple playoff series.
So then why aren't they 1 game over 500?
Because it is the regular season. That's what we've been discussing. Is that things
like the Raptors?
But you're discounting Knicks for the regular season. So what conversation are we having?
What?
Because you're saying it's the regular season, but you're taking away from the Knicks' success because it's the regular season.
That's exactly my point. If we're talking about the playoffs, I think experience generally prevails. The one team that I think is the 2 teams I think would be exceptions to that are, I think the Knicks could be Indiana and Toronto. Those are the only 2 teams I think.
You're also a Celtics fan. So.
I gave my honest opinion about the Celtics. Things would have to be an absolute dumpster fire for us to lose in the first round.
So mentioning Indiana, that's the debate we originally had at the year. Them and the Wizards were clearly miles better than the Wizards. So talking about Indiana, because that was your big thing, Anthony. You said you don't see any world, best case scenario. We were talking about RJ and Julius, everyone being an all-star, Obi Rookie of the Year. And you said with that team, you didn't see it above the Pacers.
Well, keep in mind, we said realistic ceiling, and RJ and Randall. I mean, Randall was an all-star, obviously, but RJ being an all-star this season was never a realistic hope.
But we're the 4 in there. But regardless, it is shortly separated. But
regardless, I've been a little bit surprised by the Pacers, because looking at that roster, when they have, they have Sabonis, they have Miles Turner, they do have a new coach. They do have a new coach. Yeah. So
so do the Knicks.
I still.
Yeah. What I'm making the argument is maybe he wasn't the right hire.
It wouldn't surprise me to see this Pacers team still finish above the Knicks. What's up with TJ Warren? Has he been playing?
I don't know. I don't really watch Indiana.
So it wouldn't surprise. Oh, also, they haven't had LeVert. I don't know. I think that, to me, Indiana, I'd say if I had to pick right now, I'd pick the Knicks to finish above them, and I would probably pick the Knicks to beat them in a playoff series. But oddly, I also might be more likely to say that the Pacers would have a better shot against a team like Toronto or Boston in a playoff series than the Knicks. But
really, I don't think I'm very down on the Pacers.
Well, apparently,
I'm not huge on them.
Well, apparently the Knicks have no chance of winning the Heat. So
they are not beating the Heat.
They're not beating the Heat.
I'm not saying they are, but
guys,
they have a chance. I'm just saying.
Do they have a chance? Sure. It's in sports. Technically, anything can happen.
Oh, okay. I'm not saying
At
that
all
type of
points.
chance. I'm not saying
Yeah.
a shot to win the game. I'm talking about a legitimate shot.
There's no.
I agree with you.
Reasonable. Nah, I guess, Knicks fans have been starved for any sort of success for years, and so they're gonna listen. It's true. They're gonna take.
So the Nets, to be fair.
Yeah, the Nets have been in the playoffs though. Still.
Yeah, but they've never done anything in the history of the NBA, in the history of them being a team. I'm just saying.
Don't talk to me about a 1970 NBA Finals win. Nobody cares about that.
1970 and 1972. Let's not forget about that one.
But anyways, this isn't a Nets versus Knicks pod. But what I'm saying is that, as Knicks fans, and not just you guys, Knicks fans in general, why do you think the consensus of all Knicks fans is talking like, oh my gosh, we're the next big thing in the league and we're going to do this and this and that when they've won their one game over 500?
You're just salty. Great. You're just salty because the Bleacher Report didn't post in the Nets community.
But, it's just it's an interesting. And honestly, the Knicks being good is better for the NBA. New York basketball being relevant is better.
It's actually worse for the NBA because we're about to take out every single team and get the chip.
Yes, sir.
That's what you guys are sounding like, though. You're not going to beat the team.
Bro, we're saying we can win a playoff
series.
We're saying we can win a playoff series.
Against the Heat.
You're not beating the Heat.
Against the team that made the NBA Finals last year.
Do they look like that team right now?
Still has a miles better roster.
Do they look like a team who that same team right now?
They could. They've won 6 in a row. They could easily.
Their best player was in and out of the lineup for the first 20 games. How are you going to get any rhythm?
I still think there's a chance. I still think there's a chance the Heat make the finals again. They finish strong the rest of the season. There's easily a chance.
Yeah,
I'm just putting that team on its back.
The Heat are one of the teams that scare. As a Nets fan, the Heat are still one of the teams that scares me the most in the East.
All right, well, we can definitely beat the Celtics. That's for sure.
I don't think you can either because that would mean the Celtics would have.
The Celtics stuck
right now.
Okay, even so, Anthony's point was very valid. You say they've been terrible, which they have. We're still one game behind you, and we've played horrible.
And the Knicks have played close to.
The Knicks the Knicks started off in the third.
How are we like the 30th?
No, we were 32nd in power rankings at the beginning of the year, and we're 10th right now. 10th in the NBA.
Okay, let's not talk about Bleacher Report's power ranking.
Recency bias. You got to think long term here.
I'm thinking long term, and I see Julius Randle holding up the trophy. I see RJ Barrett with the Finals MVP. I see it all.
And I'm pretty down on the Celtics, and I'm trying to be realistic here. The Celtics losing to the Knicks in the first round of the series would have mean everything went wrong. Because right now, everything has gone wrong to a certain extent, and we're still
and when we played you, we beat you.
So
it's also disgusting
if we were to lose to you guys in the playoffs, the floor literally would have fallen out. Like,
let me just say though, we are not at our ceiling, and we are not. Yeah, we're not at our ceiling, Anthony. Let me just say that.
The Brooklyn Nets a few years ago.
I don't want to hear about this team, bro.
But listen to me, because
we aren't the Brooklyn Nets.
Just dismiss it before you dismiss it. Listen, they beat Miami. The LeBron James-led Miami Heat. They beat them 4 times in the regular season, 4 games to nothing. They made it to the playoffs, and they got swept by them. Okay, so beating a team. But listen, the point is,
LeBron is the biggest coaster in the world.
It's the principle applies. You can beat a team 5 times in the regular season. That doesn't translate to playoffs.
All that matters is the playoffs.
Yes,
I'm just saying.
And we haven't seen the Knicks in the playoffs, which it can definitely be like it can definitely be negative. Yeah, it can definitely be like we haven't seen the Knicks in the playoffs. But on the other hand, we haven't seen the Knicks in the playoffs. Like you could actually see more good than bad. That's all I'm trying to say.
I think the most likely outcome for the Knicks is it'll come down to the matchup. If they face the Celtics or the Heat, I see them playing a competitive series. I don't see them getting out of it. I don't know how they'd face the Raptors or the Pacers, but if they did, then we could talk about that.
We'd beat them both. We'd humiliate them.
We are a Celtics. You are a Celtics fan, Dylan.
I'm not.
And I'm very down on the Celtics.
Yeah,
and
well, Anthony's never given the Knicks props once in his life. So
When
I
have the Knicks
am. I
ever
feel like
deserved
I'm
props
giving them
until this
props.
year?
Right
I feel
now,
like
right now they.
I feel like
props.
I'm giving them props. I'm saying that depending on the right matchup, they can make the second round. If not, they'd be
you're
a
saying if we
competitive
play
team.
with WNBA players that we can win a series.
What?
Okay,
What?
it's not a knock on the Knicks to say they can't beat the reigning Eastern Conference
What do you
champion
want me to say?
in the playoff series.
Do you want me to say? Do you
That's
want
not
me
a
to say
knock.
that they're going to the
can't beat the
finals?
Raptors,
Because
though.
they're
I
not.
said you could. I just said I don't think you will, but I said you could.
Right now, the New York Knicks can, if they face Miami Heat in a series, I'm not saying we will win it, but I'm saying there is a shot. And I'm not saying,
Yes.
anything can happen in sports. I'm saying there is actually a shot. Is it below
10%.
50%?
10%.
What was your? Well,
They
I
hated in the beginning of the year. They're hating now. They're going to be hating when we're in the playoffs.
Yes,
They're
sir.
gonna
I'm not
be
Yes,
hating.
beat the Heat. Yes,
I'm
sir.
not hating. I think they look good, and they're going to be
Yeah.
competitive.
The
They're
thing
not
is,
going to beat the Heat or probably the Celtics.
Dylan, if you say the Celtics one more time,
as a Knicks fan, listen, Knicks fans, what they should be doing with this season is taking this season and saying, "Oh wow, this has been incredible. No
Let's
one
build
expected
on it.
Let's keep
No one
this train
expected this.
going.
Focus on the future and say, okay, yeah, they're going to be a good, scrappy, competitive team. But of course, as Knicks fans, they're going to think, okay, wow, we can beat anybody. We can beat the Miami Heat in a playoff series, which is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I hope Kyrie cries when LeBron destroys him in the NBA Finals.
Okay.
so eat that.
So I guess
Let me ask you this before we.
I'm
wrap
not
it up.
saying we can beat anyone.
Let's be
I'm saying
realistic. Let's be
go
realistic
ahead.
here. Let's ask the two Knicks fans. What do
Go.
you honestly think is going to happen with the Knicks?
We're winning the NBA Finals. End of discussion. Podcast over.
All right, I'll give my honest opinion. Right now, are we going to beat the Heat in a series? No. But is there a shot we can? Yeah, and I don't think it's like
10%.
a miracle. I think it could happen.
Oh,
The
what's your
Celtics,
percentage,
I
Jay?
think we can
Jay,
beat.
what would your percentage of beating the Heat be? Because they say 10%.
I'd say like 20%. The Heat
Tell
were in
me
the finals last year.
Oh yeah.
Tell us where you think they'll finish and what will happen in the playoffs.
We'll finish as the 1 seed and win the finals.
I will say the Knicks will finish as the 6, and they'll have to play probably the Bucks or the Nets. I would prefer to be the 5, but
They're not.
I say we're gonna. I think we're gonna play. If I'm gonna be 100% honest with you, I genuinely believe we're gonna be the 5, and I think we're gonna.
yeah,
end
you
up
know what?
playing
I'm changing my answer to the 5.
I think we're
I
gonna
like that
end up
better.
playing someone like the Heat or the Celtics.
I don't know if
or
I see the Celtics finishing below the Knicks.
No, I
I
don't
said-
either.
Yeah.
I said we could play the Celtics, Dylan.
Okay,
No,
so you
I'm
think
saying
they
I
keep
think
above
I
Heat
think
then?
the Heat will. I think the Heat will finish above the Celtics.
Yeah.
You're just
yeah.
salty because the Celtics are the worst team in the NBA.
We're one
All
game
right.
worse than you.
Let me just give my completely honest opinion.
Half a
I'm going to
game
say
worse,
we
actually.
finish
No,
anywhere between
Half.
4 and 6. We play either team like the Heat, Celtics, or Raptors. Heat we won't beat. Raptors we will beat if we play them. And
I don't know if
Celtics
I'd go
will
with
be a 50-50
Will, but I think
I
series.
don't know about Will. That's a bit
And
of a stretch.
Celtics would be
there's
a 50-50 series.
Okay, if I were to be honest, Raptors is 50-50. Pacers would be like 75-25 Knicks. And Celtics would probably
we could be
about-
playing the Wizards, and you guys would be like 50-50.
You'd beat the Wizards.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dylan.
Thank you.
This
All right,
I'm
so
gonna-
Jaden, what about you? And I do think this team can win a playoff series. I know as Knicks fans we sound like we're going all the way, we're going to the finals. I'm just saying, from me, we've watched every single game this year, and that's not an exaggeration. This team can win a playoff series.
I felt the same way about my Nets a few years ago.
I'm just saying the
Your
same
net-
thing. The same thing is the
They were
Celtics
scrappy.
have played
Same
horrible.
But
And we're
Julius
still
Randle is
only
better
half a
than whoever
game
you had.
behind.
Okay, but they
All
were
right,
still-
Jaden, why don't you give your prediction and honest take on the Knicks? for the
I think
playoffs?
we're gonna end up being anywhere from the 4 to 6, and I think we'll play either the Pacers, Raptors, Heat, or Celtics. If we beat the Pacers, I think we'll beat them. I'm not saying. I think we beat them. I think we'll beat the Raptors. I think we could stand a shot against the Celtics, and we would have to really pull off something insane to beat the Heat.
I think you'll be a 7 seed. You'll be scrappy. You'll probably play one of the top.
But your
teams
guys'
in the
opinion
East.
isn't valid because you also thought we were going to win 25 games this year.
Okay, I was wrong. And a lot of people were. The Knicks, as it stands right now, are a scrappy team. If they're the 7, they'll be hard, like kind of like the Heat were a few years ago. They're gonna face a team like the Nets or the Sixers or the Bucks. They're gonna make them work for the win. They're gonna lose, but I still feel like that's an accomplishment for the Knicks this season.
I think that the Knicks will finish still below the Heat, Celtics, and Raptors. I think they'll
Get out of here with the Raptors, bro.
They'll be neck and neck with probably Indiana for the 7 seed. I think. I feel like there's a team we're forgetting.
Charlotte.
Maybe not.
So you're
Charlotte and the Bulls.
So you're seriously betting on Kyle Lowry?
Listen, I'm betting on Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, Norm Powell, Nick Nurse, Boucher. Like I'm betting on the whole team because they have a lot of depth.
Okay.
But regardless, my prediction is the Knicks. If I had to predict right now, I'd say the Knicks make the 7 seed and they'd face Philly in the first round, maybe win a game, and then it would be close games every time, but they would lose in 5.
That's what I'm saying. I still feel like as Knicks fans that you should be happy with that. That's
not disrespecting the Knicks at all. It's just
I'd like to make some closing remarks here. Dylan and Anthony, you thought we would not make playoffs.
We were wrong. The Knicks have proved a lot of people wrong.
To be fair, we thought they'd make the playoffs as a 9 or 10, which still is very possible.
You guys said 9 and 10, best case scenario. You guys can say like realistic.
Still only a game and a half separated from the 10 seed, so just keep that in mind.
But you guys said best case scenario 9 and 10. You guys were wrong right now at the All-Star break because you can say Bleacher Report power rankings, whatever, but you guys were wrong because we're the 4th seed right now and the 10 in the power rankings. You guys can be wrong again. That's what I'm saying.
Well, we didn't make the bet of where they would be at mid-season. We made the bet at where they would be at the end of the season. So if the Knicks finish higher, I will happily cop to being wrong. And I will already admit that I was too low on the Knicks at the beginning of the season. But I'm saying there's a lot to play, so don't crown them as a playoff winner.
They stay snoozing on us.
I will keep snoozing.
People aren't snoozing. They're being realistic.
Keep sleeping.
No, but I just feel like it just keeps saying, everyone just keeps saying like, oh, this needs to happen. We keep doing what needs to happen. And then it's still not good enough because other teams aren't playing.
The best case for the Knicks was where they
are
right
now.
No, it wasn't because according to you guys, it was 9 and 10. So
they're a game and a half separated from 9 and 10.
But they're there.
Well, that.
All right. So
well, that's gonna wrap it up. No one's gonna budge on anything here. For anybody that sat and listened to all of that,
I hope you didn't turn the wheel off the road. Hope you didn't turn the wheel off the road and just.
But what can I say, Knicks fans? Am I right? All right, everybody. Thanks for joining. This has been
the Knicks podcast.